Okay, hello everyone, Jace here. We're gonna be doing a box review for the new upcoming set, Lord of the Borrel, which is coming out January 31st. So, it's gonna introduce the Rocket archetype, the Borrel stuff, some Dolce stuff too, and then just some random assorted Link monsters. So let's just go over it. I'm guessing I'm gonna start with Borrel Dragon, which is the cover card for the set. So, Borrel Dragon. It's a Link 4 that requires 3+ Link monsters, and it says neither player can target this card with monster effects. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster on the field. It loses 500 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. This effect's activation. And at the start of the damage step, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can place that monster in a zone this card points to, and take control of it, but send to a graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. So this is really strong. Basically any Link deck will probably want to run one of these, just as an out to a bunch of big boss monsters. It even outs Casitas, Invoke Casitas, which is banned, but even so, this has one of the strongest removal effects, which is non-targeting, non-destruction, of stealing your opponent's monster and bring it to your side. So that way you can even, like if they leave an attack, you can steal it and then attack with the monster you just stole, and it'll just leave the field anyway during the next end phase. So they could steal it back, but like it's very unlikely that they will be able to. So yeah, really strong card. It'll especially boost Salamang Greats, which is really good for that deck, because I find that whenever I'm playing the deck, I do have a bunch of Link materials just sitting around. So converting that into a 3K beater that has some protection from monster effects, that can also like lower attack and also steal monsters, non-targeting, non-destruction way, is really strong. So yeah, Borrel Dragon, definitely a good card. You'll probably want to dig the box at least once, even if you don't care about the other archetypes in the box. Next up, let's just talk about the rockets, I guess. Cracking Dragon's not really a rocket, but because it's a machine, so it's like a dark machine, it's not a dark dragon. It cannot be destroyed by a battle with a machine with a monster with equal or lower level. When your opponent normal or special summons exactly one monster while this card is on the field, you can make that monster lose attack equal to its level times 200. And if you do inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack lost by this effect. So that's not once per turn. That's not really that strong though, but still. Like it could like floodgate a couple decks that just don't use anything that has like ranks, but like pretty much every deck can make Xyz, so, and Links, so this is pretty easy to lay out. So it's not very good, really shouldn't be an SR. It also doesn't have a special summon effect, so summoning it out is really annoying. Let's go up to Quick Launch next. Quick Launch special summons one rocket from your deck, but cannot attack, also destroy it during the end phase. Note, it is not once per turn. So if you draw 3 of these, you can activate all 3 of these, which is a little strong. You know, just a little bit. It's definitely one of the best cards in the archetype. There's not really, as you'll see later with the rockets, there aren't really that many good targets. I mean, there's Rocket Tracer, which is upcoming, but like, even so, we don't have the Link 1 rocket. So you're kind of relying on this to start your plays, because otherwise you're just normal summoning a rocket and passing. Speaking of Rocket Tracer, is quick effect, you can target one face-up card in the field. If you do, destroy, and if you do, special summon one rocket monster from your deck, except for itself. Also, you cannot special summon a monster from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except dark monsters. So, Rocket Tracer, really strong, level 4 tuner. That's not too bad. Rockets do have other level 4s. They can make a sort of wider variety of synchros, but you're kind of limited to darks, basically, with Rocket Tracer select. The bigger problem is that we didn't get the Link 1 for the Rocket archetype, which is I don't remember what I don't play Dragon Link in Master Duel, so I forgot its name. Tracer Dragon, I think. But yeah, that's kind of the play starter for the entire archetype, and without it, Rockets kind of have a struggle. Next up, Shell Rocket. When the Link monster's effect is activated, that targets a face-up card in the field. Quick effect, destroy this card, and destroy one monster in this column this card was in. And if you do destroy any monsters in that adjacent card's column, and then during the end phase, if this card was in the graveyard because it was destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a rocket from your deck. Like, rockets they pretty much all share this line of text, like the when it's targeted by a face-up card on the field, a Link Monster's effect, he can destroy itself. That's really the main shared effect, and also the last effect where they special summon a different rocket from deck. It being end phase is a little slow, like most of the rockets. It's like still good because it's still floating, but like Yang Zings are definitely better at doing this. Even though they do miss timing, they're still better at the whole floating thing. Like Shell Rockets has a decent effect though. It destroys a monster in the same column and destroys any other monsters in adjacent columns, which could potentially be like Raigeki basically. If you destroy the middle column, it'll destroy the left and right columns, which is pretty cool. Next up is Metal Rocket. When a Link Monster's effect is activated, when it has the rocket effect activated, destroy all your opponent's cards in the column this card was in. And then during the end phase, it has the same effect. So, like, this one's unique effect is not too great. It's fine. Destroying all your opponent's cards in the same column is really strong, but like, if it's face up, they probably will like try to avoid putting cards into that zone so it doesn't get destroyed. Next up is Boot Sector Launch. All rockets gain 300 attack, and then you can activate one of these effects. Special summon up to 2 rocket monsters with different names from your hand in defense position. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon rocket monsters with different names from your graveyard up to a difference. So yeah, this is your main, this is the main field spell, and it is really strong. However, without Tracer Dragon, it's kind of annoying to set up. You're probably going to be using the first effect more often. Sometimes you might go second, so the special summon from grave does come up. But like the first effect is your main playmaker, and like it is really strong, but you do need to open like the perfect hand to get to it. And Borrel Supplier. During each standby phase, if you control a Borrel Link Monster, you can target one rocket monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but destroy it during the end phase. I mean, this is actually not too bad. It's during the standby phase, which is a little slow. But if you can, you could like probably play a slower control rocket Borrel deck, and this could generate value. The problem being mostly that you have to actually just control the Borrel itself, which the only target right now is Borrel Load Dragon, which is Link 4, so it does take a little bit of time to summon. But yeah, it's not super great. Next up, I guess I'll go over it. That's not really a rocket monster, but next up is Link Burst. Target one Link monster you control, one monster your opponent controls, destroy them, then draw one card. It's not a quick play, which really does hurt the viability of this. If it was a quick play, it'd definitely be way better, because you could use this with Link 1's Soundman Great Balinks to generate value off of it, but because it's not a quick play, it's not super great. Next up, let's just go with Remote Rebirth, I guess. Target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon in an opponent's main monster zone, your Link monster points to. That relies on your opponent to do something, so it's not good. That's quick enough. Overburst Dragon is interesting. 2 rocket monsters. Target one other Link monster you control, special summon one rocket monster from your hand to your zone that target points to, but the monster special summoned by this effect cannot be used as Link material. Also destroyed during the end phase. You can only use that effect once per turn. And when this card is destroyed by balance into the graveyard, you can target a rocket in your graveyard, add it to your hand. I mean, it's fine. It's like a Dark Dragon, which does fit in with the Borrel theming, so it's not too bad. Next up, let's go with Booster Dragon. Two rocket monsters. Once per turn, target one other face-up monster on the field that gains 500 attack and defense, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. I mean, this effect's activation. If this Link summon card is destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to a graveyard, target one other dragon monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So Booster Dragon's actually pretty good. It's a Link 2, which makes it pretty easy to summon into, and it does trigger your your rocket monster's special effects by itself, which is nice, really good. Is that really all the rockets though we're getting? I'm pretty sure that is, but I'll keep going. Mini Borrel. Mini Borrel is 2 rocket monsters. If you control a Borrel Link monster while this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 1 Link 3 or lower monster. Special summon this card, but it cannot be used as material for a Link summon of a monster with the same Link rating as the attributed monster. So this is actually the Borrel monster. So what I just said about Borrel cooling, I think, not Borrel cooling. I skipped over that one accidentally. But Borrel supplier. This does sort of help, because this also counts as a Borrel. It does have low attack though, which means it actually has to survive 1 turn before you can get off Borrel supplier's effect. You could probably play like a more defensive Borrel Dragon deck, but that's probably not going to happen. Speaking of Borrel cooling, because I skipped over it, let's read what it does. Tribute 1 Borrel monster you control, then target 1 tribute 1 rocket monster you control, then target 1 Borrel Link monster you control. Equip with this card. If this card is equipped to a monster by this effect, the equipped monster gains this effect. Once returned, quick effect, you can target 1 monster you control. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect this turn. Tributing a Borrel monster to equip something is really bad, and like just being an equip is also really bad. That's like 2 strikes against this card. There's a reason it's an N rarity. Next up, Tactical Exchanger. Target 1 face-up monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 rocket monster with a different original name from your deck or graveyard. I mean, this is decent. It is on a trap card, which kind of sucks. If it was on a spell, it might have been better. But you can exchange one of your rockets for another, and then the one in the graveyard will trigger its effect and come back. I mean, not come back, flow into a different one too. So this is fine. It being a trap is really bad though. Next up is Borrel Regenerator. Activate this card by targeting 1 rocket monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and equip it with this card. But banish it when this card leaves the field. If this card is sent to a graveyard because the equipped monster is destroyed, you can draw 1 card. So this one, it is a monster, not a monster reborn. It's a premature burial. Not premature. Is it premature burial? Foolish Burial is the one that sends. Yeah, it's premature burial for the archetype, for the rocket archetype, which is fine. I don't think we have most like equipped searchers that would make this okay to run, but like it's still fine. You might want to run one of these just because it's a decent revival spell. Then again, we do have other revival spells legal in the game, like Call the Haunted, Monster Reborn, just a bunch of other stuff too. So I don't know if you actually run this. I think I skipped over other dragons that Revolver uses, so I'll just quickly go over those. I mean, I'm already on this, but this is not one. This is Gravitic Orb. Flip. Change the battle positions all face-up monsters your opponent controls. Bad. Moving on. It's a flip monster. Flip monsters are not good. Next up, Gateway Dragon. If your opponent controls a Link monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Gateway Dragon once per turn this way. Once per turn, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Dark Dragon monster from your hand. So this is actually pretty decent, since even if you don't special summon it, it still like represents 2 Link materials on the field, which is still pretty good. But it's definitely better going second because you can do that without using your normal summon, which is definitely interesting. You might want to run a couple of these, I guess. And it's actually generic. Yeah, it's generic. Any level 4 or lower Dark Dragon. So you can use this with any deck, not even just rockets. It's also level 4, so you could potentially make rank 4 plays with it. Not too bad. Defrag Dragon. You can special summon this card by sending 1 other monster from your hand to the graveyard. And you can only special summon Defrag Dragon once returned this way. If this card's in your graveyard, you can banish 3 monsters from your graveyard with the same name, except Defrag Dragon, and special summon this card. You can only use this once per turn. So it's fine. It is level 3. I don't know if that actually matters. Rank 3s aren't in a great position, so I don't think it super matters. It does special summon itself with the graveyard, but you have to have 3 monsters in their graveyard with the same name, which is definitely an annoying task to do. Like, special summoning itself for free is fine, but it's like sort of free, because you're sending a monster from your hand to your graveyard. Like, this could, if you can offset the cost with something that like floats, that's decent. Not something too bad. You might be able to run this in like a rank 3 soup deck, like maybe BA. I know BAs are kind of xenophobic with their effects, but like this one's fine maybe to run in that deck. even so. Next up, Hibernation Dragon. If this is normal or special summon, target a level 4 or lower dragon type monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. While you control no link monsters, except the turn this was sent to a graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Pick one Dark Dragon Link monster in your graveyard, special summon it. The first effect is decent. It recovers material for your later use. But other than that, the second effect is kind of situational. You have to not be dead, and you also already have to have the graveyard set up with a Dark Dragon Link monster in your grave. Like, you have to be losing and have a Dark Dragon Link monster in your grave, which is pretty annoying task to deal with. This is Overload Dragon, which is level 1. When a monster in the field is destroyed by a card effect, special summon this card from your hand. Then if 2 or more monsters are destroyed by that card effect, special summon 1 Overflow token. You can only use this effect once per turn. So this is fine. It's not super great because you have to have something destroyed by a card effect. I mean, you can trigger it yourself because it doesn't say your opponent's card effect. But like still, that's not super amazing or anything. Next up is Delindrous Dragon. 2 Dark Dragons. Once returned during your opponent's end phase, target 1 attack position monster your opponent controls that did not declare an attack and destroy it. And if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's original attack. If a rocket monster is special summoned to your field while it's in graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So Delindrous Dragon is actually really good. It special summon itself for free if you just special summon another rocket monster. So you can summon Delindrous, use that link material, summon back a rocket, and then this will also come back for free. And that's really good. Dragon's Rebirth, another generic dragon monster support. Target 1 dragon monster you control, banish it, and if you do special summon a dragon monster from your hand or graveyard. It's not great. You have to banish, it's just a straight -1 for very little payoff, which is like summoning a dragon monster from your graveyard. Otherwise it's a -2 if you summon it from your hand. But yeah, not a good card. I think that's really it with the Borrel stuff. I might have missed this one actually. This is Background Dragon. If this card is in your graveyard and you control no cards, you can special summon both this card and a level 4 lower dragon monster from your hand in defense position, but banish this card when it leaves the field. I mean, it is a level 5. It doesn't special summon itself from hand or anything, so it's you have to basically dump it some other way to the graveyard and then bring it back later. And you also have to control no cards. We don't really have Foolish Burial, so this isn't really a play starter. If there's a way to like easily send this to the graveyard and then bring it out as a play starter, it might be fine. But we don't really have that. Next up, Triggering Worm. If this card is sent to a graveyard as link material for a link summon of a dark monster, special summon this card from the graveyard in attack position to your zone that the link monster points to, but it can't be used as a link material. If this card is destroyed or banished by an effect activated by a link monster, draw 1 card. This would have been good if you could actually use itself as a link material, but otherwise, since you can't, that means it's not as good as it could be. Like, you might be able to like use this as synchro material maybe. Xyz material, you could use as Xyz, but there's not really any rank 2s you could really go into with this. But that's not super great. Next up, DMZ Dragon. Once per turn you can target 1 level 4 or lower dragon type monster in your graveyard, and 1 dragon type monster you control, equip that monster in your graveyard to that monster on the field as an equip spell that makes it gain 500 attack. At the end of the damage step, if your monster equipped with an equip spell attacks, you can banish this card from your graveyard, destroy as many cards as possible equipped to that monster you control, and if you do, that monster can make a second attack in a row. That is super long-winded, and it's not very good. Relying on yourself to control equipped spells. Definitely, equipped spells are very fragile, so I wouldn't really run this at all. But yeah, that's it for the rockets. Overall, I think Borrel by itself is fine. The problem with the rockets being that there's not enough of them. We're only getting 3, and Rocket Tracer is probably the best one, which is fine. But we're not getting another 4. We have Silver Rocket 2 from the event, the current Varus event, but that's still not really enough, because even with Quick Launch, even with Rocket Tracer, without like Tracer Dragon 2, we don't really have enough to make a deck out of, because the field spell isn't searchable without the Link monster, and that's really your main play starter without the monsters in your hand. So, I mean, if someone can make, someone might be able to make it work. It just spams a bunch of Link monsters though, which I feel like there are other decks that could probably do that better. Maybe this Rockets could be like a rogue deck. Next up, let's go over Madolche's. So Madolche Queen Tiramisu is the UR, and it's the main boss monster. It requires 2 level 4 Madolche monsters, and once per turn you can target 1 Xyz material from this card. Target up to 2 Madolche cards in your graveyard, shuffle those cards into the deck, and after that, shuffle cards your opponent controls into the deck, up to the number of Madolche cards returned. So Tiramisu, really good. Double non-targeting, non-destruction removal makes Madolche Queen Tiramisu's like removal really strong. It can definitely just clear an entire field, which is really annoying. It's kind of like we did just get what is it, Peninsula into the card trader, so that does help, but it's limited to 1, so you don't. That's like your main starter. That's gonna be like your main starter to make Queen Tiramisu, and without more copies of Peninsula, that's gonna be really annoying to make this card. Because I don't think we got, like, do we have I think we have, like, some of the stuff already. It's just that they're just so they kind of spread out Madolche so much, so I don't really remember what exactly we have. I don't think we have Angeli, and that's also another starter, like a really strong starter that the Madolche archetype kind of needs. Next up, Madolche Princess Chocolate a la Mode. What a handful of a name, and 2 level 5 Earth monsters, but you're probably not making it that way because you can also Xyz summon this card by using a rank 4 or lower Madolche Xyz monster you control as Xyz material. Xyz materials attached to that monster also become Xyz materials on this card. And once per turn you can target 1 Madolche card in your graveyard, shuffle into the deck. And while this card has Madolche Princess as Xyz material, when a Madolche card in your graveyard shuffle into a main deck, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, special summon 1 Madolche monster in your deck, from your deck in attack position or face down defense position. I don't really know why you can. I don't think Madolches really have flip effects, so I don't know why you can summon it and face down. But Princess Chocolate a la Mode is really strong. You're supposed. Peninsula is like the main way you're gonna make this. You're gonna make use Peninsula's effect, summon out Princess from the deck, and then make them into a rank 4, then make that rank 4 into Chocolate a la Mode. And the effect to special summon from your deck does enable a bunch of OTKs. The problem being that you only have 1 Princess, and that's really your main way you're going to get that second effect. So you're not going to see this very often. Probably. You're probably not going to play it very often. Next up, Madolche Teacher Glass Souffle. 2 level 4 Madolche monsters. Quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, target a Madolche monster on the field. That face-up monster is unaffected by monster effects except its own. And if a Madolche card is sent to a graveyard while this card is on the field, you can shuffle up to 2 cards from your graveyard into the decks. So, like if you have something else to... Actually, no, it triggers it by itself. It's basically like a DD Crow, which is... So it'll be your main going first option because it protects itself and it has a quick... And it turns into like a quick effect, DD Crow-like effect. So it's kind of decent. Madolche still don't really have a good starter, at least from what I'm seeing. And Messenger Gelato, it's when it's special summon, add a Madolche spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. That's a new one. That along with Madolche Chateau, which if a monster in your graveyard would be returned to a deck, you can add it to your hand instead. The field spell is pretty strong. You search it usually with Messenger Gelato, and then that creates like a really strong resource loop for Madolches. The problem being that it's still like a resource loop is fine. It's that the Madolche effects on the field only trigger when by destroying them. So if you banish them or bounce them, then the effects don't go off. So you don't get the value from their floating effect. Next up, Madolche Ticket. When a Madolche card is returned from your side of field or graveyard to your hand or deck or main deck by a card effect, add 1 Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. And if a face-up fairy type Madolche monster, you can special. Wait, what? And if you control a face-up fairy type Madolche monster, you can special summon the monster from your deck in face-up attack position instead of adding it to your hand. So Ticket is also a strong target from Messenger Gelato. It's probably going to be your first search target and then Chateau second. Definitely a really strong card. It searches a Madolche monster or special summons it if you control another Madolche monster, which isn't hard. But yeah, this does create a really good resource for that deck. Let's see, what other Madolche card is there? Madolche Palooza, is that a new card? This one might be a reprint, but also go over for, I think anything below this line is a reprint actually. This one just special summons any number of Madolches from your hand but shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. If this was a spell, this would have been really strong, but as a trap, it's not as strong. Oh, and this is already a reprint. Madolche Knights, that's also a reprint. But yeah, okay, that's all the new Madolche cards. So overall, Madolches, I don't really remember exactly what we already have. I know we have Hoot Cake, but the new cards are good. It's just that they're not enough. I feel like there's not enough play starters really to actually go like into the fast-paced Madolche style. Like I think you might have to play Madolche as like a more control style, like with the resource loop of Ticket and Chateau and Mesh and Gelato. But yeah, it's still fine. Probably won't be anything spectacular. If you basically need to draw a Petincessor, and there's not really enough search targets to get to Petincessor, and it's limited to one. But yeah, that's it for Madolches. Next up, let's go with just all the other random cards. Fuse line. While this card is set, which I don't really know why that's the activation condition, because if it's a trap, it's probably set. But target one card in the field and discard column, destroy it. I mean, people are already sort of playing around Mech Knights, so I think they will like avoid putting stuff in the same column as your back row, but you might be able to catch people off guard. And this is basically just straight destruction, and no strings attached, which is really good. You'll probably maybe want to maybe have a couple of these. I don't know how much play you'll see, but it's not too bad. Next up is Summoner's Monk. While this card is face up on the field, it can be attributed. If this card is no more flip summon, change this card to the defense position. And once per turn, you can discard a spell card. There's summon one level 4 monster from your deck, but that monster can't attack this turn. Which, who cares if it can't attack? This is definitely a good generic card. You probably want to use this in a deck that can actually get value off of discarding spell cards, or that can actually combo off super hard just by special summoning any level 4. There are definitely like a bunch of different combos you could do with this. Probably the most play you'll probably use this in is Witchcrafters, because this just summons out one of your Witchcrafters for free from the deck. And if you discard one of the Witchcrafter spells, then you just get it back at the end of the turn. So yeah, Summoner's Monk is not too bad. Next up is Cyber's Magician. You can ritual summon this with Signet Ritual. Any damage you take is halved. And while you control Link monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters you control for attacks except this one. Also, your opponent cannot target the monsters you control with card effects except this one. If this card battles a Link monster, it gains 100,000 attack during the damage count only. And if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, add one Cyber's type monster from your deck to your hand. So that's a lot of effects. But really the main effect is the protection effect, because if you can somehow set it up where Cyber's Magician itself can't be targeted, then you basically prevent all your monsters from being targeted, which is really strong. But yeah, next up is Cyber's Witch. If a monster is special summoned to a zone discard points to, banish a spell in your graveyard, add one Cyber's type ritual monster and one Signet Ritual from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, if this effect was activated this turn, you can target one level 4 lower Cyber's type monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So really good strong card if you want to play a Cyber's Magician like turbo deck. It searches out Cyber's Magician, searches out the ritual spell for it, and it also brings back material for it. So yeah, really good strong card for that kind of deck. I don't really know how strong that will be. You kind of have to protect Cyber's Magician somehow with like an equip spell or something, but if you can pull it off, then it's really good. Next up is Nephthys, the Sacred Preserver. You can only use the following effects of Nephthys, the Sacred Preserver, once per turn. During your main phase, if this card with Link summoned, you can activate one of these effects. Add one level 8 Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand, then you can add one ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. Or destroy one Nephthys monster this card points to and special summon one Nephthys monster with a different and original name for your graveyard that negates its effects. This one, it would have been good if it wasn't like a Link 2. The problem being that Nephthys itself can't really special summon a bunch of like the smaller ones by really. It can't really facilitate summoning this very often. If it could, this card would be good, but as it is right now, Nephthys this is a good boost for the deck, but they can't really summon it. Next one is Avenged Slaver, and it only requires 2 zombie-type monsters. It becomes Revenged Slayer on the field, and you can only use one of the effects per turn. You can use each of them once per turn, so you can use both of them in the same turn potentially. Target one Avenged card in your graveyard, add to your hand, or during damage calculation, if this battles an opponent's monster, you can send one zombie-type monster from your graveyard to your deck to your graveyard. The opponent's monster loses attack equal to the level of the monster sent to the graveyard times 200 until the end of the turn. So Revenged Slayer is generic, which is really good, but within Vendred itself, it's still also really good. Just free recovery for any Vendred card in your graveyard, and then the damage calc is fine. That's the more generic effect because it sends any zombie type. It's a little slow, that effect, but it's still fine. I already did Gravitic. Fire Prison. This one is like a sort of generic card. All dragon type monsters on the field gain 3,000 in defense. Not 3,000, 300. Wrong number. A little too big. If any link monster are on the field, neither player can link summon a link monster with a lower link rating than the highest link rating on the field. Monsters cannot attack except link monsters, and apply to flying effect while there are 2 or more Cybers link monsters on the field. Negates the activated effect of Cybers type monsters, or Cyber type monsters cannot attack, cannot be targeted for attacks, and cannot be targeted by card effects. So yeah, this card is not the second effect isn't really that important. The main effect is that monsters can't attack except link monsters. So if you're facing an opponent that has no link monsters, and if you can like shut down their effects somehow, you can potentially lock them out of the game. It's like this is a popular deck in Master Duel, which is Mystic Line at home, where you completely lock out your opponent from doing anything with this card and just stall them out. It's not as great here because people are just randomly taking out a couple link monsters, and there's no Ojama Duo or Ojama Trio in the game, so you can't clog up your opponent's zones. Next up, Baba Barber. No, it's just Baba Barber, sorry. At the start of each battle phase, you can target this card or one monster this card points to banish it until the end phase. This effect doesn't really make sense. It's just a generic link too, I guess. It does only require two monsters, and it's an effect monster. So there are some applications if you need to convert like 2 tokens into an effect link monster. Other than that, this isn't great. Next up is I'm not going over Mr. Volcano. We didn't get this card. This is an old card. If the equipped monster's attack is 1300 or higher, this card is destroyed. The monster equipped with this card is not destroyed as a result of battle or by the effect of the card that targets the monster. Yeah, this card is not great. It just equips spells that it's an equip spell that provides a protection, but it can't be used on anything higher than 1300. So it's not super good. I already went over Remote Rebirth. Already went over that card. And that's it for the box. Yeah, this is just a kind of short stream. Not really too much in the box. I think overall this is a kind of box. Probably at least going to go in for Borrel or Dragon, and that's about it. If you're a fan of Adult Shades, you probably definitely want to come into this box. But yeah, that's about it for the box. And there's one more thing I want to go over, which is the Topologic Bomber Dragon bundle, which comes out the same day. So yeah, 17 packs, and you are Topologic Bomber Dragon. And I can't click on it to show you what Topologic Bomber Dragon does, but I can pull it out. Let me just... I timed out a dueling book. I set this up earlier, but now I have to go back and set this up. Let's bring this up. Dueling book's so slow. But yeah, let's bring up dueling book. Bring up duel room. Solo mode. That was the wrong deck. But yeah, so one thing you can do with Borrel Dragon is what I'm about to show off, which is an FTK, and it's completely legal in this game because I'm pretty sure we have all the cards that facilitate this. But let me just pull it up. So it involves Samsara Lotus and Topologic Bomber Dragon. So if you put Topologic Bomber Dragon in the right extra monster zone and have Nightmare Cerberus right underneath along with a Catbat all these co-linked together, if you can summon Samsara Lotus, at the end, special summon Samsara Lotus, it'll destroy itself, and then at the end phase, it'll keep coming back, because it's not once per turn, it'll just keep coming back, and Catbat's effect inflicts 100 points of damage in Duel Links. So you do this 40 times and you FTK your opponent. I don't know how easy that will be to set up, but it's definitely an option. It's definitely an option for an FTK. And if you want to know what Topologic Bomber Dragon does, it requires 2+ effect monsters, and if another card is special summoned to a zoned, 8 link monsters point to any link monster. While this monster is on the field, destroy all monsters in the main monster zone. Also, your other monsters can't attack for the rest of their turn. After damage calc, if this monster attacks an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's original attack, at least for Duel Links purposes. But yeah, that's pretty... Like, even outside this FTK that I showed off, it's still a pretty strong card, just to summon out, because it kind of forces your opponent to play around the top zone, so you basically lock them out of one zone. So that's pretty strong. And otherwise, it's like, okay. You can also trigger it yourself if you can, like, quick effect summon a monster from your grave, summon a monster to one of the Topologic Bomber Dragon zones. But yeah. That's going to be it for today's stream, just a short review stream on the new box. But what do you think about the box? So comment down below what you think of this, and like and subscribe if you want to see more of these like box reviews. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.